The Jaguar I-Pace has been with us since 2019 and it is the brand's first electric vehicle. But it didn't really capture the hearts and minds of consumers back then because it was just too expensive and it didn't really have a whole lot of driving range. For 2022, however, Jaguar has made a few tweaks to the I-Pace to try and keep it relevant in one of the fastest changing automotive segments. So how does this big cat compare to other luxury EVs? Well, I'll let you in on a little secret. I was originally supposed to compare this car against the Volvo C40 Recharge, but unfortunately the Volvo had a bit of a mishap. If you are curious to know what happened to that Volvo, you can check out that video up here. So in the meantime, it's just going to be a review of the Jaguar I-Pace. And with that, let's go for a drive.
Anxiety, filling up every space, no privacy. And silently, it could build and build until you finally see. Whoa, it's taking over, damn no closure, moving closer. No exposure, I just wanna be a loner. Some can't stay sober, looking over all their shoulders. Like moving boulders just to get out.
One thing that hasn't changed with the Jaguar I-Pace is the powertrain. It's still propelled by two electric motors, one in the front and one in the back, and the total system output is 394 horsepower and 512 pound-feet of torque. With this Jaguar I-Pace weighing around 2.2 tons, that means a 0 to 100 km/h time of around 4.5 seconds. And because it is electric, torque is instant. So of course you get pushed really hard into the back of the seats every time that you accelerate from a stop, and like many other electric vehicles, at around 100-120 km/h, the acceleration isn't quite as aggressive. The top speed in this Jaguar I-Pace is 200 km/h. That's about 125 miles an hour, more than enough for North American roads. Another thing that hasn't changed is the battery pack. It's still 90 kilowatt hours, and the driving range is still on the low side compared to some other EVs. EnerGuide, which is the Canadian equivalent of the EPA, rates it at 357 kilometers, or about 222 miles. That's quite a bit less than some of its competitors like the Ford Mach-E or the BMW iX. But at least now it'll recharge a bit more quickly because one feature that Jaguar did update is the onboard charger. It went from 7 kilowatts to 11 kilowatts. This allows the I-Pace to recharge from a level 2 11 kilowatt charger in about 9 hours. That's an improvement of almost 4 hours. From a level 3 DC fast charger, the Jaguar I-Pace can only suck up to 100 kilowatts of energy at its peak, which means that from 10% to 80% charging takes approximately 40 minutes. A Hyundai Ioniq 5 can do the same charge in less than 20 minutes. One of the biggest letdowns that I had with the old 2019 Jaguar I-Pace was the feel of the brakes. Between regen braking and using the physical brakes, there was a disconnect that made it feel really unsettling. For the 2022 model year, it feels like Jaguar's engineers did a little bit of tweaking to the brakes because now they are much smoother and it's easier to arrive at a smooth stop. There is also regen braking, and there are two modes, high and low. In low mode, it's like using engine braking in a gasoline vehicle. You don't really slow down that much. In high mode, you slow down significantly more, but it's not a one-pedal drive mode. For the last 10-ish kilometers an hour, I think that's about 6 miles an hour, you still have to use the physical brakes to actually bring the car to a complete stop. And that's the really annoying part about it. Why couldn't Jaguar's engineers just make it a true one-pedal drive mode? For example, right now I am slowing down, I'm in high mode, and I need to use the physical brakes to actually stop. Really annoying. One of the main reasons why you would consider the 2022 Jaguar I-Pace over other luxury EVs is because of its handling dynamics on a twisty road. Most EVs feel planted thanks to the low center of gravity provided by the battery pack. This one feels even more planted, if that makes any sense. The steering also makes this car enjoyable around the twisties. It's direct and provides a decent amount of feedback to your fingertips. It can become a little bit firmer if you switch to the dynamic drive mode. The car also comes equipped with standard air suspension that firms up just enough in the dynamic mode to reduce some of the body roll. It is still a heavy car, so it doesn't completely eliminate body roll, but it is a bit more composed. All in all, this is one of the most enjoyable driving EVs on sale today. With the addition of the air suspension, the 2022 Jaguar I-Pace has a smooth ride, but only in certain environments. What I mean is that on highways, the air suspension is plush and manages to absorb road undulations. On city streets, the ride is still smooth, but you can easily feel the shunts of the road bumps as you drive over them. It honestly doesn't feel all that different from other EVs without air suspension. There are absolutely no vibrations from the powertrain, and on freshly paved roads, it's like being on an airplane. If you switch the car to dynamic mode, enhanced electric sounds get played through the audio system. This is similar to BMW's iconic sounds that were produced by Hans Zimmer. Though I doubt that Jaguar got the composer to produce these sounds, but they do provide a sense of excitement when the car is in this mode. Otherwise, wind and tire noise are kept in check. Now on the inside of the Jaguar I-Pace, it looks and feels like a proper luxury vehicle. All the materials have a good quality feel to them, from the aluminum on the dashboard to the leather on the seats. One thing that has changed on the inside since the 2019 model year is the new infotainment system. It's displayed on a 10-inch screen and it looks and responds really beautifully. However, it is a little bit daunting to use at first. It's not quite as intuitive as other infotainment systems, but once you fool around with it, it does become a little bit easier. Also, it does have some degree of customizability, so you can change a few of the home widgets, and it does allow for wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto. Beneath it is a smaller 5.5-inch screen, and this is used for the climate controls. Now, normally I am not a fan of touchscreen controls for the climate, but at least with this one, you do have two large knobs to either side to control the temperature, as well as the fan speed and the heated and ventilated seats. To change between the different options, you just push and pull on these knobs and they will change for you. And further below, you do have physical buttons for your drive mode selector, as well as the actual drive modes and the air suspension. So really key and important functions of this vehicle. Now, some of the trim pieces are in gloss black plastic, and if you've watched any of my previous videos, then you know that I really hate this material. Thankfully, in the Jaguar I-Pace, you can option it with different trim pieces. So you can have aluminum or carbon fiber, for example. And if I were to buy this car, it definitely wouldn't be with the gloss black. In terms of interior space, I am 6'4", and as for legroom up here in the front, it's not quite as much as I was expecting. My knee isn't touching up against this piece on the dashboard, but it's pretty close. I can move the seat a little bit further back, but this is as far out as the steering wheel goes, and I don't want to drive with outstretched arms. Not a big deal, but it would just be nice if maybe this piece was a little bit further inward. Headroom though is more than plentiful. I can't complain about that. Sitting behind my driving position, I'm a little surprised at how much legroom I actually have. And the reason why I say that is because the Jaguar I-Pace is the same overall length as the Kia EV6. But in the Kia, you get about 100 millimeters more rear legroom than in this one. And yet, my knees are actually not touching up against the back of the front seat. I also have enough space for my feet and just enough space for my head. My hair is pretty close to this moonroof, but it's not actually brushing up against it. The outboard seats are heated and there are a couple of USB ports. There is also a little bit of a hump in the center, but it's on the shallow side. Also, one cool feature is that the car uses the blind spot sensors to let rear occupants know if there's another car coming from the back. So there's a little icon here that will light up and warn you if there is another vehicle coming in the back. A cool little safety feature. Cargo capacity is on the average size with 656 liters of space with the rear seats up and 1,453 liters with the rear seats folded. One thing to note, the trunk opening is a tad on the narrow side. There is also a small compartment under the hood, but it's only big enough for small items such as a charging cable. The 2022 Jaguar I-Pace is not a cheap EV. It starts at $99,800 Canadian, with this demo vehicle being equipped to $103,065 Canadian. A lot of the convenience features are thankfully included in the base price. These are heated and ventilated seats, dual zone automatic climate control, parking sensors, power liftgate, keyless entry, leather upholstery, and satellite navigation, to name a few. Some options include a head-up display, heated steering wheel, 4-zone climate control, and Wi-Fi data plan, for example. The rest are all just cosmetics like the black trim pieces or wheels. The Jaguar I-Pace has every safety and driver aid added as standard for the 2022 model year. These include automatic emergency braking, lane departure warning with lane keep, blind spot sensors, and adaptive cruise control with lane centering, to name a few. One note on the adaptive cruise control, it's not as smooth as other adaptive cruise control systems. When it's following another vehicle and maintaining the distance, you can feel the car treating the brake and the acceleration as on-off switches, rather than smooth variable switches. So you can feel the jerky motions. They're not strong, they're subtle, but it's there, whereas in other vehicles, you don't feel this. The lane centering system, on the other hand, is really good. So I'm a little bit torn about the Jaguar I-Pace, because on one hand, it has the performance, it has the driving dynamics, it has a spacious interior, and it feels luxurious. But on the other hand, it still costs $100,000, and you're not getting that much range, less than 400 kilometers. And these two do not balance out. So I'd be lying if I said you should check this out, because unfortunately, I cannot recommend this car. There are better options out there. But Jaguar is going to a full electric future in 2025, so hopefully their next generation of full electric vehicles will have more range and be hopefully a little bit less expensive. But if the Jaguar I-Pace does tickle your fancy and you want to know more about it, you can check out my full detailed review of it over on my website. You can find that link in the video description or click on the pop-up banner right up there. And as always, I will see you in the next car or truck or most likely another SUV. Anyway, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.
I got nightmares in my head, I fear that the thoughts build up until I can't hear, that my mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head, I fear that the thoughts build up until I can't hear, that my mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper.